Great question. So the question is creatine safe and recommended for individuals in perimenopause? That's actually two questions. Is it safe? Yes. Creatine monohydrate as a natural substance is probably very safe. Is it recommended? Now, before you take any supplement, vitamin, practice, modality, regime, whatever it is, always see your healthcare provider, make sure you're getting personal advice. But what I was going to say was, before you start something, you want to think about what your goals are. What do you want it to do? Why are you starting something that you may need to do every day for a really long time? And monitoring whether you actually get the outcome or the change or the improvement that you're looking for. So, what do you want creatine monohydrate to do? Creatine monohydrate, and I have some here I can show you, is this is just very inexpensive version. You don't need to buy it from any bougie places or any places that have special formulations. Um, but what does it do? We know with menopause that we want to build bone and we want to build muscle, or we want to maintain bone and we want to maintain muscle. And I've talked about that already. It doesn't do a lot for bone, so we'll set that aside. There's other things that are important for bone maintenance and protection, but it does potentially help maintain muscle. So we know that we lose about maybe 3 to 4 to 5% of muscle each year, called sarcopenia. And if you're doing muscle resistance regularly, so the strength training is really important, the protein and nutritional intake is really important. And if you're doing that very regularly and you're looking for a way to augment that muscle build, creatine monohydrate may very well help. Now, you're not going to get bulky like the Incredible Hulk, but it may potentially help because what it does is it draws water into the muscles. And we know that the way muscles work is muscles are 75% water, and the actin and myosin filaments have to run over each other as you're doing contraction, eccentric or concentric contractions. And that's how you build muscle. You put weight on that muscle, heavy weight around menopause, because we want to be building, we want to be maintaining and building that muscle. It's metabolically active. It's important for metabolism. It's important for using those substrates and using our glucose and keeping us tolerant to insulin so we don't become insulin resistant. So all of those things, it's important to have muscle. How you get the muscle depends on what you want to do. Creatine is not going to be the best way. You've got to already be doing your muscle strengthening and really heavy weight resistance with good supervision and good guidance. And you've got to already be eating very healthy, so lots of protein, making sure you're getting all your nutrition according to guidelines. And if you want to try to add creatine to that to further augment all of the practices you've implemented, give it a try. It's 3 to 5 milligrams every day for, I would say you want to try that for probably 3 months. Make a commitment, see if it's going to make a difference to you and how you're feeling. The other interesting thing about creatine monohydrate is because it's an energy source for the brain, there is some emerging evidence that it's helpful for cognitive function for people who are at risk of brain fog, cognitive function, or even Alzheimer's disease. And I say that because the reason I have creatine monohydrate is not to build muscle. It's because I have a family history of dementia and I was noticing brain fog. I was not just menopause related brain fog, but actual brain fatigue because I'm in front of my computer, I'm working all day. I was noticing brain fatigue, pain behind my eyes, really kind of an exhausted feeling in my head. My body was still ready to go, but my brain was really tired. And I wanted to know if the creatine monohydrate would make a difference. Initially, it made quite a difference. And then over time, as I implemented other practices, taking eye rest, and maybe eating a little bit healthier, making sure I stayed a bit more hydrated through the day, avoiding caffeine, which is dehydrating. Once I started to do all of those things, I realized that maybe the creatine monohydrate isn't as important for the cognitive function or brain effects that I was trying to achieve. So, kind of a gray zone, but that's an interesting little fact. There's good evidence for creatine to be helpful when there's been a brain injury. And when someone has had a recent traumatic brain injury or concussion, creatine as a brain energy source will sometimes help that brain to heal. And that is potentially a short-term reason where creatine monohydrate may be helpful from a health perspective. Now, if you dig into the science, there's not a lot of confirmatory randomized control trials on why or when you would want to take creatine monohydrate. But for all of those reasons we talked about, muscle maintenance, building muscle, which is important in midlife for potentially as a brain energy source if brain cognition, dementia, or cognitive decline are a concern. And post-traumatic brain injury or concussion in that short term to help the brain heal. So those are some of the reasons. So it's not an easy answer. It's a great question. Evidence is emerging, and each personal person has to make that decision for yourself. So if you give it a try, monitor. If you're getting better, you're feeling better, and you're able to implement that as a habit, then that may be working for you. But in the long term, healthy diet, healthy nutrition, exercise daily, stress management, and sleep are your best friends.